Calling to order the Tuesday, December 13th, Fall River Redevelopment Authority meeting effective 5:05. Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recording or transmission are being made, whether perceived or unperceived, by those present and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. I'd like to start by taking attendance via roll call. John?
John Erickson, present.
Louis Gonzalez, present.
Joe Marshall here.
Ann Keen here.
Okay, thank you. Also participating in today's meeting is Sarah Page, our Executive Director, John Coughlin, our Counsel, and Ken Fiola, our Administrative Service Consultant. Let me just see, I've got everything here. Okay. First item on the agenda, approval of open session minutes from November 16th and November 30th. Is there a vote to approve those minutes, or any discussion?
I move we approve, Joe.
Okay.
November 16th.
Is there a second to that? Second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. Next item is the approval of the warrant. Everyone, I hope, received one, has reviewed it, and if they have any questions, we can discuss them. And if they have no questions, I can entertain a vote to accept.
I move we approve the warrant.
Second?
Second.
Second by Luis. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? So moved. Next item on the agenda is the recruitment for a new executive project assistant. You want to
Yes, as you.
disintroduce Rochelle?
Well, Rochelle has been here with us and wonderfully helpful and doing a great job, and she's gotten an offer she couldn't refuse. And I think you all have heard this, and I just put it on there to say that tomorrow I'm gonna get it up on Indeed. Last night I looked through some of the people who had applied before, because when I hired Rochelle, some people kind of kept answering, so there were some people I never interviewed who might be worth looking at. And I'm going to redo the job announcement that, I'll have a piece of paper announcement. I'm gonna send it to all of you, the mayor's
Okay.
office, and any of you, if you know of people that would, be really, really helpful. And you'll see the salary that we had talked about before. It was around the 40,000 range, and yet we've been somewhat flexible if we had the perfect person. So that's kind of where that stands. We want to find someone as quickly as possible. In the meantime, I'm calling Julie, who took some minutes for us and worked as a temp.
Oh, yeah.
And she still works full-time, but I imagine
Oh, I
she
remember.
might be
Yeah.
willing to help out since she learned the ropes here, and that would be great. And then I've talked with Carla, our bookkeeper, who could come a couple of times a month to help with some of the bookkeeping tasks in person, the way she did before. But I am really hoping that I'm gonna seriously prioritize this and try to get someone as fast as possible. And recognizing the middle of the holidays isn't always the best time to be looking.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Rochelle.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, thanks.
Yes. All right, thank you. Next item is our city pier, 600 Duval Street. You want to give us an update?
Yes.
If you don't mind.
So, one thing that I have here the approval process
Right.
for various kinds of events. We had talked about getting a committee started in early '23 to start working on policies and procedures about having events on the pier. The really great news about events is that Ken and I were on a call with several people from Mass DEP. And Ken did an excellent job of laying out what we want to do and the kind of events we want to have. And just kind of, instead of continuing with this assumption that we would have to go through a whole new Chapter 91 license
That's right.
process, he said, you know, we want to have these, and he just kind of didn't get into whether we would have to apply. The assumption was we wouldn't have to apply. And they said, yes, you have old historic licenses, and, you know, we'll look at this and see what kind of events you can have without another license.
So they
Which-
gave you the reason why you
Yeah.
can have events?
Pretty much.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. Well, we haven't heard back from their research, but do you want to talk about the one that you found?
So, some of you may remember, Joe probably remembers.
I certainly
Hey,
do.
John may
Might be the
remember.
last guy to remember.
There was actually a Steamship Cove Chapter 91 license for the city pier. And that license was approved by the approving entities at that time. And that license actually allowed the city pier to be developed for hotel, marina,
Correct.
and office use.
Yep.
And commercial.
And
It was
commercial.
commercial.
Correct. So that license in and of itself is a valid license. When we were trying to look at the pier for marina purposes, we were going to make an argument that said we didn't have to do another license because we already had one that was available through Steamship Cove. But at that time, nobody wanted to press the envelope. Everybody said, well, it'll be cleaner if we just do another license as opposed to trying to fit an all marina use under that license. So that's why we moved in that direction. But I guess the point is, if they're looking for ways in which to accommodate different types of uses on the pier, certainly that Steamship Cove license, which is the most recent license, but for the new Chapter 91 licenses that we've secured, that should give them the authority to do so. So having that license hopefully will prove to be beneficial to us.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's great.
Because if we don't have to go through that whole Chapter 91 license process that we've just gone through twice, it would be just such a time saver, consultant fee saver.
How long is that good for, the steamship one?
Seems like,
I think these
Open-ended.
licenses, I think there's a sunset provision on them of 20 or 30 years.
Oh.
Yeah,
That's nice.
so.
yeah. All right, and the
So-
79 groundbreaking?
Yeah, so
That's
I kind
scheduled.
of jumped ahead from the committee. Do people, do we still agree we want to pull together, do we have a sense of what we want to do? Should I work with a couple of people on this process?
Oh, you're talking about the committee for the
Yeah,
events?
I don't know that we actually need an official committee.
No, but you can have a ad hoc committee,
Yeah.
maybe some people from the community and,
Mhm.
and a couple of board members for sure.
What kind of people from the community would you think I might want? Like
Probably
Patty
people who might
Weedle,
have-
maybe, Patrick?
People that, Patrick, because somebody
Yeah.
who may wanna
Right.
use the pier for
Yeah.
events. So the arts community,
Yeah,
well, we can go over that, but it's just, I think the committee should be comprised of, the city stakeholders.
yeah. What board members would like to be on it this time?
Well, since Joan's not here, maybe we should volunteer her.
Well, she's already in the
I-
Pleasant Street.
I know, I
I'll-
know, I
Committee.
know, I know.
You want to? Oh, great.
That's a good idea.
I'd say just one or two, because you don't want it to be a.
Right.
No, no more than two. Even one's fine, because you'll be there.
Yeah,
You'll be part of it,
yep,
so.
okay.
I think that's enough.
Good.
Yeah, yeah,
Great.
and then, you know, go over, especially with John on it,
Mhm.
go over some names from the community and invite them.
Good,
And don't make it bigger than 6 or 7.
no,
No, okay,
definitely not.
okay, good.
Okay.
That answers your question, right? Okay, on the committee.
Yes. So then Route 79 groundbreaking, we saw the Lieutenant Governor today. She's excited about coming back to the pier for the groundbreaking. D.W. White called this afternoon, and they were asking for a key so they can bring the dirt that they're going to shovel, and we're asking about our tent, and so Rochelle talked with him, and we'll get them a key and, you know, work with them on it, but it was nice to see they were reaching out and.
Good,
Is that 12/21?
yes. Yeah, December 21st.
Yes,
9:30.
at 9:30.
Yeah.
Yep. And the Lieutenant Governor thinks the governor is coming, and you do too.
And everyone here is invited.
Yeah. How many people do you think are gonna come? We have tent for about 50.
Yeah, it's gonna
I'm
be
inviting
cold.
my board.
You want
Yeah.
to be there?
I'm inviting the board.
Yeah. I'm
Since
just
they-
saying the weather will dictate that, I think.
How many people come?
Mhm.
Yeah,
City councilors you gotta invite.
right.
Yeah.
So, the Seaport Economic Council met today. The mayor and I drove up together, and, oh, I jumped ahead to Facebook.
No, that's okay, though.
Yeah.
I think we can follow you. No, go ahead.
And, so I'll show you the board that, Ada made up for us that we showed, and, so here's the new dock system, and there are 12, at least up to 12, mooring spots for boats.
For the audience, could
Yes.
you
Oh,
say what
so-
that's about? The
yes.
Seaport
Oh, so
grant,
the
the
Seaport.
grant, what it's gonna do?
The Seaport Economic Council helped to fund the whole remediation and development of City Pier into what it is today. So we went back to them with an application to add a dock on the north side of the pier. And our goal is to get that in so that people can come in their boats over to the pier next summer.
And we're just gonna have it on the north side, right?
Right now,
Okay.
we just learned that the governor has signed our Chapter 91 license, so now we're licensed to put docks all the way around. And one of the questions I was asked at the meeting today was, I wrote in the proposal that we're using this kind of as a test on one side, and he said, what are you testing? And so I said that, you know, we want to see how well people navigate to it, how well it works, if there are designs that we may want to change in a next iteration, and how much demand there is.
Okay.
And so then the other piece is that this is an 80-foot gangway, and the fact that it joins land as opposed to joining the pier means that we can make it wheelchair accessible, baby carriage accessible, and is a real advantage. And then when we do pier, you know, when we do docks around other parts of the pier, we're gonna be having a much steeper pitch up to the pier, and it may be much more difficult to make anything with, you know, ADA compliant. So here we won't have to go for an architectural access board variance. We'll make it, 80-foot gangways are considered ADA compliant, even though the pitch is a little more than a typical pitch allowed by the ADA for other purposes. Oh, and then the pilings. So we have a $150,000 state earmark to cover the pilings. And we already put it out to bid, and we are in the middle of signing a contract with Reagan Marine, a very experienced company out of Newport, right? And,
And they bid, right? They
They
bid
bid.
and won the bid.
they were the only one who
Okay,
bid.
okay.
And it came in, relatively close to what we expected, because they also came back to us and said, there are things in the bid documents that make it more expensive. We'd like to talk with you about making some revisions. So our, a couple of our permitting agencies required us to have a turbidity curtain. And, originally,
Can you explain what that is for me?
yeah, do you wanna explain it?
Yeah, so a turbidity curtain is a curtain that's used during the construction of the driving of the piles, so
Oh,
that
alright.
as you're driving them down, as you're driving into the ground itself, what's resulting from the pile being driven in is now floating around in the water and everything else. So this curtain contains whatever's coming up from driving the piles into the sediment from being dispersed throughout the entire river. It's just going to be contained within this
And
area.
then removed?
No, it just resettles, but
Oh.
it doesn't get washed
That's
out
even
into
better.
the river, right?
Even
So
better.
there's a curtain that confines all that stuff from being
Okay.
washed out.
That's interesting.
So there are different ways you can do them, and Beta had expected that you would have the curtain on your barge and you would put the pile through it. So it would really have to be opened and moved 20 times for the
each time.
20 piles,
Yeah.
which they thought was doable, but what they're now gonna do that will save a lot of money and time is at the end of our little breakwater here,
Yeah.
it will go over to the close breakwater. You know, we have land over here that,
Oh, yeah.
that has 2 points. There's a point kind of over here and one over here. And if you do the curtain to this one, you kind of really close this area in, and there's room for the barge, but you are really keeping all of this material
Yeah.
from floating very far.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah,
So that just stays in while we're doing it, right? And then when
Yeah.
you're done.
Yeah, when you're
They
done,
take
you
it
just
down.
remove it. So, yeah, so this is a significant grant, right? So when you actually look at the amount of money that is taken to get this pier ready for public use and now transient dockage, we're into it for probably close to $10 million, of which, and I say this all the time, I think it should be reiterated, that the city has never put in any of its own money into this project. The majority of this money has been secured via grants, whether it's through the various grants from the Seaport Council, Mass Development, Mass Works, and then monies from the Redevelopment Authority itself. So this is a very costly project, primarily because it costs so much to remediate the PCBs that were there that nobody knew about. But now, we're by that, and now we're into the home stretch of this project, and, yeah, I think the feedback has just been tremendous on the project itself. People are actually loving it, and they're gonna love it more in the summer and then the time to come, so I think it's a highlight of the waterfront.
Well, even the state's approach, I mean, they contacted us about doing the groundbreaking for 79
Mhm.
at the pier.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So they are aware.
yep,
Mhm.
yep, no,
which is great.
yep.
Now, I got a question. For the curtain, right?
Yeah.
If we go to do the other side of the pier, can we use that curtain? Or do we have to purchase a new one?
No, it's their curtain,
Oh, it's
Oh,
theirs.
it's their curtain,
The
yeah,
cost is just
Yeah.
installing.
yeah, it's
Oh,
their
okay, I
curtain.
thought we were paying for it.
Nope,
No,
but we would probably use it from corner to
Right,
corner over
on the
there,
other
right?
side.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
and
Good.
And a lot of it's gonna be based on a demand. The good thing is we're permitted to go. The real cost of this project is not necessarily in the pilings, it's actually in the dock.
Yeah.
docks are
expensive, you know, and I think we're gonna take a look at bidding it out both for aluminum as well as wooden docks.
Next time.
In the spring, probably get ready for the spring.
Oh, right.
Yeah, because we wanna have the docks
For
installed.
sure.
Right,
And the docks don't have any time of year restrictions, so once we go out to bid, they just gotta manufacture, construct the docks, and then install them, and that can be done anytime.
Do we know if we have to put a gate at the
We are going
Yeah,
to put
there's
a
gonna be a
gate.
gate. It's
Yeah,
gonna be,
the harbor master was pretty adamant with us that you want a gate here, and it will be a locking gate, and I think we decided to have it on a timer, so,
Oh, okay.
right?
yeah, so if you're locked in, you're probably gonna have to call the harbor master
Right.
to get access.
Yeah, to swim.
Swim to the rocks.
Right.
Yeah, and then we're also going to get some camera coverage of the dock itself from the cameras that we're placing up there.
Now, is that the only material, wood and aluminum, or they can do fiberglass, or?
Typically, they're wooden or aluminum. Yeah.
And then they have floating mechanisms
Yeah.
under them, either barrels or some other, material that makes it float.
Good. Now, in that meeting you and the mayor attended today,
Right.
at that meeting, did they give the approval?
Yeah, every single one of us got up and gave a 3-minute presentation, so I had it timed and, I did my little presentation, and then they vote at the very end. So
Okay.
that's kind of the, if you're on the agenda, nobody's going to, say, oh, I don't like this project.
Yeah.
They all just get approved. And I was surprised, I was so careful in what I was going to say, not to say this grant will, I was gonna say, if you approve, with your support, we'll do such and such, and everybody else was saying, this award will allow us to, so,
So what did you say?
I think I got rid of, I was sitting there scratching a few things out. I just said, we are going to add docks.
Okay,
And
good.
with your support, we're going
There
to
you go.
do that. Yeah,
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for the update.
sure.
The next item is again, Sarah, the status of the Chapter 91 and Army Corps of Engineer approval for the docks.
So-
That's part of that?
The lieutenant governor confirmed with the mayor that the governor has signed the Chapter 91. It had been sitting on his desk. And we have been told that we're getting the Army Corps of Engineers permit this week.
Oh,
But,
Yeah. So we've been working with Congressman Auchincloss's office.
Mhm.
I just received a text saying that they're going to be checking again with them tomorrow, because tomorrow's the day that they sort of indicated that they'd give us the letter. So,
all right,
so we got a full court press on getting that done.
good.
yeah. Because if we don't get the Army Corps of Engineers okay this week, then the Reagan is not going to start putting the piles in until after the holidays. And if it were to lag much more than that, they said that they would potentially not start in January, because we're up against this January 14th time of year restriction. They know it's gonna take at least a week to drive the piles. You could have blizzards and bad weather. So we're really up against the gun, and we're trying everything to get it approved so they can get out there.
Okay. And you've already mentioned, anything to add on the plans for the installation, pile installation? No?
I don't
You
think
just
so.
said it.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think so.
Okay, good. And the approval of the beta contract amendment for pile installation and construction phase services.
So I had gotten this number from Bill McGrath to put in the application to the Seaport Council, because I considered this matching funds. We were basically able to say that we were providing a 32% match to the grant that we're getting. Because a lot of the engineering work and planning we've done can't be covered by the grant because it happened prior to getting the grant. So, this, Ken and I are suggesting that we take a vote that the amendment not exceed 19,580, because I got it kind of midday yesterday, and we haven't had a chance to really talk with Bill McGrath about the fact that we question whether there would be a need to have someone supervising the pile installation the entire time. And, you know, we want to pick into that and see if he could convince us that that's important. You know, there is the concern out there that there could be obstructions under the mud, and they could go putting a pile in, and if they're supposed to test to see if there's an obstruction, but they could hit an obstruction and it could damage the wood.
Yeah.
And so that's the kind of thing someone would be out there watching for. But we're not sure that it makes sense to have someone out there in the cold watching the entire time. So we want to debate that with Bill and see if we can reduce this a bit.
So for the sake of time, you'd like us to entertain
Yes.
a vote to not exceed 19,580?
Right, which is their proposal.
Okay, so let me entertain that. Is there a motion to approve a contract amendment to exceed not to exceed 19,580?
I move we accept.
There's another meeting upstairs at 6 o'clock, I think they.
Okay, and is there a second to that?
Yes.
Second by Louise. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. No one's opposed, so moved. Yeah, we have some urban renewal plans going on, so the Pleasant Street roadmap,
Right.
you want to address that?
Yes, so we have been working on this roadmap that's a revitalization plan that precedes the urban renewal plan. Pieces of it will go into the urban renewal plan, and they're integrally connected. Dan Aguirre, our new city engineer, kind of came into this process after we had done a lot of meetings and a lot of thinking. Caitlin, as our city planner, was in the beginning, so we've had some city staff kind of coming and going. So Ken and I had a meeting with Dan, Mike Dion, he and I, to really talk about, here's where we are with the blueprint now. Are there things in this that you really don't think should be in here? And there were some things that we all agreed we think should be removed. And so I'm working with Emily on doing that. And a major issue that has really hung up our process is that our consultants had discussions with MIPA, and MIPA started saying that an ENF, an environmental notification form, would not be adequate, that we would probably need to go much further into much more review for the Flint neighborhood. And we all started thinking that didn't make sense to us. It kind of stopped us in our tracks because it had lots of implications. Well, it turns out Emily learned through a meeting with MIPA and another client that MIPA had gotten the impression, talking with some of our consultants, that we were not just doing a plan and having other developers develop. They got the sense we were doing what Quincy is doing in their urban renewal plan, removing a significant number of buildings, and as a redevelopment authority, developing new buildings themselves, which is completely not what we're doing. So when we learned that, we decided we're just going to go to MIPA with the ENF, and there are some new kinks to it where we do have to do some public engagement, and Ty and Bond will be doing a climate change analysis in relationship to it. But we're just going to make the assumption that we can go the simple route. Then if, when we submit that, they say, oh no, you need to do more, then we'll deal with that. But we're now thinking that there was a real misunderstanding and that we should just back up and tear forward with the process.
Is there a better understanding now?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So update on the plan and timeframes, have you covered that?
Kind of.
Yeah.
We now need to refigure our timeframes,
Right.
but our goal is to get this roadmap done and presented. We're going to present some of the changes at the team meeting that we have with you and Joan and many of our consultants the first Wednesday of January. And then we'll finish the roadmap and get that done, and then we'll be able to move forward with the submission to MEPA and getting the urban renewal plan back on track.
And then report at the next meeting.
Yeah.
All right, thanks. Any questions? Further questions? Projects, downtown historic district expansion.
So Andy Robley, our new consultant, came December 5th through 7th, and he walked our whole our whole historic district, and took pictures of every building. And he did it with Jason, the chair of the city's historic commission. And Jason's amazing. He knows almost every building and its entire history, and that was really great for Andy. And so he may stay in touch with Jason
Good.
if he has questions. Then we met with Ken for a while after we walked on South Main Street. And Andy was very impressed with how friendly people were. He got started at 7:30 in the morning on North Main, and he said he couldn't believe how many people just went up to him and said hello, and made him feel really welcome in the city. And
And they didn't know who he was.
right,
Okay.
yeah, I had no
This is
idea
good.
who he was.
Good.
And two pieces of good news are, when I was writing, revising our RFP and talking with Ben Haley of the Historic Commission, he started saying that he thought City Hall and I-195 broke the district in such a way that we would have to have two downtown historic districts.
Yeah.
And I pushed back on him, and then Andy had a number of questions for him, and he said that to Andy, and Andy convinced him to some extent. He felt that he was quite successful in convincing him that the historic nature of this building, the fact that I-195 going through the city was actually a historic event of urban renewal, and that there was a lot of arguments to be made to see both parts of the district as one district. And then Andy did a day of research while he was here, and he found a document that had been developed by the Mass Historic Commission that made that argument itself, that it really should be one whole district. So he was so excited that he found that document. And he's now writing everything up. He'll submit it to the Historic Commission, and then after they've reviewed it, we'll be able to have public meetings and then get it on to the Historic Commission for their final approval and submission to the Park Service.
Any questions?
Yeah, I got to meet him. I don't know if did any of you
No.
guys get to meet him?
No.
I was really impressed with him. He spent a lot of time in the library himself.
He knows a lot of stuff too.
He learned a lot about the city, just
Yeah,
like
that's
a
nice.
crash course. I was really impressed with him.
Good,
Nice guy too.
thank you. Next item, I'm gonna ask that this will conclude our open session, and ask for a vote to go into executive session as me, the chair, makes a finding that an open session would have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the public body. And to do so, I'd like a roll call vote to enter into executive session, to approve the executive session minutes for November 16th and 30th, and to discuss the strategy with respect to potential litigation regarding the city pier project. Is there a motion?
I move we move into executive session
John, is there a second?
and not to return to open session.
And not to return into open session, correct?
And not to return.
Correct. Second?
Second.
Okay, but Louis, we'll take a roll call vote.
Anderson, yes.
Louis Gonzalez, yes.
Joe Marshall, yes?
Pam Keen, yes.
Yes. Okay, so we will now go into executive session, never to return.
Once the cameras are off.